wanted to be a dairy farmer. My great-grandparents started this farm in 1946. That was almost 80 years ago. So I am the fourth generation of my family to get to live and work on the farm. Like I said, always knew I wanted to be a dairy farmer, so I worked really hard in school. I learned from my dad and my grandpa every chance that I could get. I went to Oregon State University. I got a degree in animal science, and then I came back to the farm. That was 14 years ago, and I'm happy to say that I love cows just as much today as the day I started on the dairy, and I'm really excited to have you guys here today to learn about the farm. The first thing we're going to talk about today here is the cows. The most important person on a dairy is actually not a person, it's a cow. This is Bluey. Bluey is a cross between the two main breeds of dairy cows. That is a Holstein and a Jersey. So the Holsteins are big black and white spotted cows that you probably see on commercials or in most pictures of dairy cows. If you could picture the Chick-fil-A cow, that's a Holstein. The other most popular breed is what's called a Jersey. Jerseys are physically smaller than a Holstein, and most of them are a really beautiful tan color, but they can go anywhere between almost creamy white and jet black. So when you cross those two together, what you get is a smaller animal with a mostly black color. Sometimes they have a few white spots, and that is what Bluey is. Bluey is 5 years old, and she is on her third lactation, which means that she has had 3 babies. So a cow's life on a dairy farm mostly revolves around their milking schedule. Here on our farm, we milk 3 times a day, every single day. While the cows are away in the milking parlor being milked, their cow barns are cleaned. What this means is that the alleys are flushed with recycled water, and that flushes away any poop or any mess that the cows have made during the day. They also have their beds remade. Cows here sleep on elevated platforms that are bedded really deeply with sawdust, and that sawdust is raked and leveled so that the beds are perfectly flat and comfy when the cows come back to the barn. I do have to admit that it does make me a little bit jealous that the cows get such excellent housekeeping services, because I wish that I had somebody to clean my house and make my bed while I was at work. But if there's one thing that is the most important thing to a cow, that is eating. Cows spend a ton of time eating. Over here. So I have a tray over here of what is most common for our cows to eat here at the dairy. If I can go that way. So what we feed on our farm is a mixture of individual ingredients. These ingredients are tested and formulated by a professional animal nutritionist. An animal nutritionist's job is to visit farms, to take samples of each individual ingredient that farms make or buy, to test them to find out how much fat or protein or sugar and vitamin and minerals are in each one, and then to blend them together into a custom recipe that's called a ration. The ration is then formulated to meet the cow's needs. So what we have here are grass silage. This is grown by us on our farm. It's the whole plant cut into pieces a little over, or these are a little under an inch long, and then they're packed and fermented. So it's kind of like sauerkraut for cows. This is corn silage. So the same process, except for you're harvesting the entire corn plant. That's stalk and ears. You can see a little bit of grain in there. It's also fermented. This next ingredient is brewer's grain. Brewer's grain is what's left over after they make beer. To make beer, you take whole grain and you boil it to get the sugar off. What is left over is the protein, the fat, and the fiber that is in the grain. It's not good for beer making, but it's great feed for cows. This one is ground corn. We buy that corn from local farmers and grind it to feed to the cows. This is straw that we get from when we harvest wheat here on our farm, and it helps to add more fiber to a cow's ration. And this is canola. So after canola is grown and then smashed to get the oil out so we can use it for cooking, what's left over is the hull or the outside of the seed, and that's either pelleted or ground and fed to cows because it has tons of protein. So cows are often called nature's greatest recyclers. That's because they can eat a lot of feed that humans can't. Just like the brewer's grain that's in our ration, dairies all over the country and all over the state of Oregon use different materials that are being recycled or trash to one person, but great for us. That could be something like apple peels or cores from an apple juice or applesauce factory, potato peels from a potato salad factory. The cows in Pennsylvania eat waste candy and chocolate from the Hershey Chocolate Company. For us, it's the brewer's grain. So all kinds of things can be saved from the landfill and fed to animals. By doing that, we sequester carbon and we help keep dairies running all over the country. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions about Bluey? You might notice that Bluey is wearing a collar. You could barely see it down under there. It's a green thing. This is what it looks like. Oh, one. So Bluey's collar is not just fashion. It's actually part of how we track cows on the farm. The collar, as you can tell, sits on Bluey's neck. It's always listening. It's listening to her chewing and how often she's chewing her cud, how often she's eating. And it's also got a little accelerometer in there, which is the same thing that's in your phone that lets you know when your screen is tilted one way or the other. That knows whether Bluey is laying down or standing up. All of the data from Bluey's collar and from every other cow on our dairy is fed into an antenna on top of the parlor 24 hours a day. That data goes through an algorithm and then it tells us how much time each cow has spent eating, chewing her cud, sleeping, or just general inactivity, or how much she's walking if she's walking way more than normal. That data helps us make decisions about which cows are sick or which cows might need more attention. So since we have put the collar system in on the cows, it's been about 3 years now. We have been able to catch cows that are sick and need attention. We think consistently 2 to 3 days faster than we could ever catch them on our own. And it's helped us cut our antibiotic use by about 50%. So what I think is really incredible is that I love cows, I understand cows, my employees feel the same way, but the technology, because it's recording 24 hours a day, can give us an opportunity to make decisions so much faster and to find cows early enough that we don't have to use as much help to get them to feel better. It's a much easier process. All right. I also have over here a cow pill. Most people are really excited to see how big a pill is for a cow. So if you think about a pill you might take when you're not feeling good, this one is a whole lot bigger, right? It's almost as big as my entire hand, which is sort of shocking sometimes. But when you think about how much bigger a cow is than a human, their medicine is proportionally just as much bigger. So next time you complain about having to swallow a pill, it's not a cow-sized one, right? Okay, so each cow's cycle, or an important thing to remember about dairy cows, is that they don't wake up one day and spontaneously think, oh, I'm going to make milk today. They actually have to have a calf first. They have to give birth to a baby, and that is what kicks off milk production. Milk production is a biological process. Most cows, just like Bluey, had their first calf when they were about 2 years old. The goal is that after they have that calf, they enter the milking herd. Within about a year's time, they should be pregnant and ready to have another baby again. So they start their lactation, they get pregnant. At the end of that pregnancy, the last trimester, they actually get a vacation from making milk. That's when the baby is growing the fastest inside the cow and has the most nutritional requirement. And we want the cow's body to solely focus on growing a healthy calf. So she doesn't make milk for about 2.5 months. She gets a little vacation from the parlor. All she's got to do is grow that next baby. And then once the baby is born, she comes back into the milking herd. So having baby calves is not just really important to us for keeping our milk production stable. It's really critical because all the calves that are born on this farm are going to become future cows just like Bluey. So calves are our future. Very, very important to us. So you guys ready to see a calf?
We have a few questions for you, Bobby, about the
Okay.
cow. Stephanie's class, fourth grade class from Portland, she would like to know how much a cow eats per day.
That's a great question. So cows on our farm eat about 100 pounds of food each day. That's per cow. So you saw the ingredients that we had over there. They mix all those up into the ration, into the TMR. It's sort of like cow casserole. Every bite should be the same. Have a little bit of vegetables, a little bit of meat, like a casserole. But for a cow, each bite has protein. Each bite has fat. They eat 100 pounds a piece of that mix every single day. So every cow, 100 pounds every day. And to wash that all down, it takes about a bathtub full of water. So cows are big eaters and big drinkers, but milk production takes a lot of calories and a lot of fluids.
Awesome, thank you. And Miss Courtney Daniels' class, they would like to know, what is a cud? You mentioned cows chewing
Oh,
their cud. What
chewing.
is a cud?
So chewing cud is part of the reason why cows can use food that humans can't is because their stomachs are specially adapted to breaking down fiber. They have 4 different chambers of their stomach and their food flows through them. So chewing cud is part of that process. They bring in the food, it goes in the first chamber of their stomach called the rumen. They have the ability to regurgitate cud. It's called a bolus when they pop it back up, but they take food that's in there and they pop it back up into their mouth and they chew it again before they swallow it, and it continues the digestion process. Every time they re-chew it, it breaks it down and creates more surface area, because what makes the rumen work is actually all kinds of microbes. So those microbes work on the feed that's in there. They pop it back up, they chew it and break it down even farther with the teeth, so that when she puts it back in her stomach again, the microbes can break it down even further so it can move on to the next stomach and the next part of the system. So that chewing cud, the regurgitation and re-chewing food, is actually a really important part of their overall digestive health. And it's something cows have to do. How much time they spend doing that every day is a really good indicator of how healthy the cows feel.
Awesome. And just a few more questions for you before we move on to the calf. Mrs. Homan's third grade class from Powell Butte, they would like to know what happens to a cow after she's done producing milk.
So after when she's reached the end of her productive life, a cow enters the beef supply. So once she's done making milk for us, she moves on and she becomes part of the beef chain. She's eaten. But I think as a farmer, to me, it's actually a really nice system. And as we work towards a farming system that is more carbon neutral, I think that we're going to have animals that have a purpose both in their life and at the end of it. And to me, a dairy cow is a perfect piece of that equation. Her entire working life, she's making milk, she's feeding people. And at the end of her life, she can still feed people. She has a purpose in her life and at the end of her life. And I think finding animals that can do that is the key to making farming more carbon neutral.
Great. Miss Ferrari's fourth grade class would like to know how long cows live for.
So cows can live, every cow is different. There's no real like standard. We have cows here that are 14 years old, and we have some cows that are, 2 years old. It depends on the cow. Uh, Part of what we get to do, and we'll talk about that with the calves, but because we're able to track the cows their entire life, we're able to find out, like how many times was this cow sick? How many calves did she have? How long did she stay here? And we're able then to pick from those genetics and say, these cows that lasted a long time, that were not very sick, we want to make sure that we keep breeding them to have heifer calves so that we're putting their genetics back into the herd, because we're always able to keep selecting for those cows that live the longest and are the healthiest. We're able to increase the average life of a dairy cow. So I would say on our farm, that's about 7 or 8 years old, but it's different for every farm.
Great. That's all the questions we have for now.
Okay. All right. So now we're here to look at the calf. See if we can get her to wake up here. Here's Sissy. Come on. Come on. Come on. Get up. Come on. There we go. This is Annabelle. So Annabelle is a Holstein. Like we talked about, Bluey is a combination of a Jersey and a Holstein. Annabelle is pure Holstein. You can see her beautiful black and white spots and her little pink nose. She was born either late Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning. So she's a little more than a day old right now. She really wants to lick my face too. Yeah. So after Annabelle was born, she gets to spend some time with her mother, and then we separate the mother and the calf. The mother goes into the milking herd and the calf comes to the calf barn where we raise them. That's because even as little as 24 hours after a calf is born, the cow is already making more milk than the calf could ever possibly drink. Not only is that really uncomfortable for the cow, but being too full of milk is actually uh, can make the cow sick. So we don't want that to happen. By separating the mothers and the babies, we're keeping both mother and baby healthy. One of the things that the calf has to do when it's with the cow is to get its very first drink of milk. So a cow stands and drink, or calf stands and drinks within an hour of being born. That first drink of milk is a special milk called colostrum. It's really, really thick and rich, has a lot of fat, and it also has a lot of what we call immunoglobulins. Those are like the key to making an immune system work. The calf is born with an immune system, but it needs those immunoglobulins to make the immune system work. So that first drink of milk is absolutely critical to setting up the calf's immune system for the rest of its life. One of the things it also gets when it first comes to the barn is an ear tag. You guys can see that ear tag in Annabelle's ear. Ear tags are made out of a flexible rubbery plastic and they're self-piercing. So they're a lot like, if any of you guys have ever had your ears pierced, it's basically the same process. Pops in the ear, and then that's going to stay in her ear for her entire life. Every calf gets their own number. So Annabelle's 1053. No other calf will ever be 1053. That's just her number. The number is how we track her throughout her life in our herd software system. So just like I was talking about keeping track of the cows and knowing how many times they've been sick or what happened to them, their number is how we track that. Their number is how we keep track of which cow families are and everything that happens to that calf in her entire lifetime will be recorded by her number. So after the calves come to the barn, there should be a calf bottle out there somewhere. Oh, right there. After the calves come to the barn, they get fed twice a day with a bottle like this. So some of you might have little baby brothers or sisters at home, but I can guarantee you they're not drinking that much milk at a time. That's almost a gallon of milk every feeding. They get that morning and night. And they're going to do that for about 3 months. 3 months is about how long it takes for the calf to begin eating solid food. Oh, Annabelle, good Lord. Here, hop back. Close the door and I'll show you the pen that she lives in. So every calf on our farm lives in a pen just like this one. It's made out of smooth plastic, which is easy to clean and sanitize between calves. And the cool things about these is they're kind of like Legos. You can stick them together in any configuration, but they keep calves nice and safe. Each calf also has these buckets in the front. There's 2 buckets in the front, one for fresh water and one for grain. That access to fresh water and fresh grain is how we train the calves to eat solid food. Also has a holder in the front so that when you go through and feed calves every morning, you don't have to hold bottles for each individual calf. So the calves spend 3 months like this until they're weaned, which means that they're done drinking milk and they eat solid food only. And then our farm, they're moved into groups of 4 calves. That group of 4 calves is what I like to call calf kindergarten. Just like kids have to go to kindergarten to learn how to get along and play together, calves have to do the same thing. Cows are herd animals. That means that they have a social hierarchy, they have rules, they have to know their place within that structure. And so moving them into those groups is a great way for the calves to start learning how to play together, how to share feed, anything that they're going to need to learn to do in their life, they learn in those groups. The other really important thing that they're doing is that they're forming bonds with other cows and they're learning to take comfort from being with other cows. We find frequently here on the farm that you'll go out into the cow barns and you'll see cows that are they're always eating next to each other or sleeping next to each other. And almost always you can trace that back and say, I remember that those 2 calves were in pens near each other. So they really are forming bonds as babies that they take with them through the rest of their lives. The other thing I have here to show you guys is a calf jacket. So it's not really something we use this time of year, but here we can put it on Annabelle so you can see what she would look like. Every calf wears one here in the winter time. Now that it's summer, they don't have to wear it anymore, but it slips over their head and goes over their body. So in the wintertime, they have a little jacket to keep them warm and to make sure that they're nice and cozy, toasty in their pens. I'm not sure Annabelle's wild about wearing that right now, but it looks cute on her. Ah. Do you guys have questions about the calves?
I think we'll hold those till later on, but we can go
Okay.
to the videos now if you'd like.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the milking parlor. All right, so this is our milking parlor. It holds 12 cows on each side. So 12 cows can be milked at one time on each side. The cows come in the back of the building. It's actually a big ramp and it raises them up so that they are just a little bit higher than the person who's working in the pit, which is what we call where the person is working. So what he's doing, yeah. Oh, where we can't see the video anymore. There we go. There's Pedro. He's one of our employees. Pedro's been here more than 20 years since I was in high school. So Pedro's job, the cows come in, they get sanitized with this special sanitizing foam, and then he wipes that foam off of each cow. So that's what he's doing right now. Each cow gets her own little microfiber towel. He wipes the sanitizing foam off. When the sanitizing foam has been washed or wiped off all the cows, then he is able to start attaching the milking units. So you see him push the button and start attaching the units. It makes kind of a funny whooshing noise, but that's just the vacuum attaching to the cow. So it goes down the line, attaches all the units to the cows, and then they're milking. The milking process for each cow takes between like 5 and 8 minutes. It's actually pretty quick. And then when they're done milking, he dips them with this special purple dip that seals the teat and keeps it safe from bacteria while they return to the barn. So the entire milking process, that getting the dip on or getting the foam on, wiped off, milked out, dip back on, it's about 10 minutes. And our cows do that 3 times a day, every single day. So a cow's work day is basically about half an hour. They have a pretty good gig. There's the purple dip we were talking about that he uses to put on them when they're done milking. And so it's actually a really relaxing process for the cows. They like coming to the parlor, standing close together is comforting for them. So being milked out feels good. Coming to the parlor is just part of their normal daily routine. And they're, no more video. Yeah. And then we should have a video where we can get to look at what it looks like inside the cow barns where they live, where Bluey and her buddies live. There are 400 cows on this dairy, 400 milking cows. And we farm about 1,000 acres in order to make the feed to feed all the cows. So 400 milking cows and 1,000 acres. When my great grandparents first started this dairy in 1946, they milked 12 cows and they did it all by hand. So I am feel very, very fortunate that I get to do it in a time where I don't have to do it by hand, because you would not believe it, but milking a cow actually takes a lot of hand strength, and most of us do not have the muscles for that. So this is what the cow barn looks like. This is where Bluey and her pals live. About 75 cows live on each side of the farm of a barn. Their feed bunks face in. They stick their head through those feed bunks, and that's where their feed is delivered 4 times a day. They get fresh feed every single day. And so their only job in here is to eat and to sleep. We try to do the absolute bare minimum as far as anything in the barns. Like, the barn is the cow's home. It's her happy place. Our job as a farmer is to leave her alone in there, let her eat, let her sleep. That's her sanctuary. So these cows are just hanging out, eating, showcasing their fabulous manners with their tongues wagging out, but they're just eating and enjoying their life in there. Do you guys have questions about the cows?
Awesome. We do have a few questions for you.
Yep.
Questions about Annabelle the calf. Stephanie's fourth grade class would like to know how much she weighs.
Annabelle probably weighs about 65 pounds right now. And hopefully by the time she's 6 months old, she'll weigh about 600 pounds. So calves grow really fast. We're looking for a couple pounds of gain a day. But people are usually really surprised that calves can, stand up with an hour being born, that she'll have her first calf when she's 2 years old. But a calf's life is really accelerated. One cow year is probably like 10 human years. So they're really, really moving pretty fast there.
Awesome. And this is your last question for today. What is your favorite part about being a dairy farmer?
My favorite part about being a dairy farmer is getting to be outside and getting to be with cows every single day. All right, well, thank you guys for coming for the farm today. I was excited to get to show it to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bobby, for taking your time with students to share about Harold's Dairy. And thank you to all the students and classrooms for joining us today. Have a great